Good morning. We're going to be in Exodus chapter 1. The lesson starts in Exodus 1, verse 15, but I'm going to start at the very beginning. And chapter 1 is, "Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mightily, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it comes to pass that when there fallen out any war, they join also unto our enemy and fight against us. And so get them up and out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens. And they built the Pharaoh's treasure cities of Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field, all their service, where then they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake unto the Hebrew midwives, of which the names of one of them was Shiphrah, and the name of the other was Puah. And he said, when ye do the office of midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if any be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the man-childs alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, Why have ye done this thing, and have saved the men-children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, Because the Hebrew women are not as Egyptian women, for they are lively, and are delivered here them. Here the midwives come in unto them. Therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mightily. And it came to pass that because of the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. Then chapter 22, and the Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, Every son shall be born, he shall be cast in the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. Okay, that's the first evil command of Pharaoh to the midwives, to kill the male children. But the midwife said the Hebrew women are strong, and by the time we get there, they've already delivered the child, so we can't do anything. And God saw favor in them. And it got me to thinking about a long time ago. I heard about this book, and it was called the Population Bomb. And it predicted that there would be worldwide famines from overpopulation. So, people have been thinking that it would be better to control how many people are on this earth. It would be better. And I also remember when I was young, growing up, I would see some commercials and even some like soap operas from Mexico that were stressing for the Mexican family to be smaller. They didn't want the big Mexican families. They were saying that, the first child, everything would be good. The second child, his clothing and everything would be less satisfactory, and so on and so forth. And they were stressing for a smaller population. And but now I'm hearing that there's people that are saying we need more population to replace. There's not enough people to replace people that are retiring in jobs. There's not enough people putting into the system, like for Social Security. They said that when it started, Social Security was like 15 to 1. 15 people putting in to 1 taking out. And now I think it's almost 1 to 1. And it's going to go broke. So I probably won't get Social Security, or very little. But anyway, now they're stressing that for people to have more children. Some countries are. Some countries are saying, they're giving you tax breaks and so on and so forth, benefits for you to have more children, because they're finding out that, they need to replace the people that are dying off and so on and so forth. And also, when you have more of a population, you have more entrepreneurs, more people that you'll have more scientists and so on and so forth, And so they're finding out that it's better to try to increase the population. I was seeing this video that Mongolia, Hungary, Russia, and the country of Georgia have started doing that because their population was falling down below what they call the replacement rate. They're saying that every woman should have at least 2.1 children to replace the population to keep it healthy. If it falls below that, they're going to have problems. I've heard that the Japanese people, they're falling behind, and they don't have enough people to fill in the jobs, to do everything else, and their economy is starting to suffer because their population getting older and so on and so forth, and there's nobody to replace them. And if you all remember back a couple years, Europe had a great idea that since they're not having enough children, they're going to let a lot of immigrants come in. And the thing was that they let the immigrants in, but they didn't assimilate them. and they just paid them to live off the system, and now they're having all kinds of problems. So, when the government gets involved in trying to control the population, there's always problems. And that government, the Egyptians, they were trying to control the population of the Hebrews because they were afraid they were going to be outmanned, that they were going to go against them. And the crazy thing is that right now we're in a political election season right here, and we got one party that one of the main things about them is that they stress abortion. And how many children have died? How many children that could have grown up to be doctors, scientists, that could have helped the world have been aborted? But, that's just one thing to consider, that, almost from the beginning of time, people have tried to push, to try to control people by that means. Now we'll go to the second chapter. And then there was a man of the house of Levi, and took to wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son, whom she saw him, and he was goodly child. She hid him 3 months. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off, to wit what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maids walked along by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it up, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had then compassion for him, and she said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee wages." And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him into Pharaoh's house. And he became her son, and she called him Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water. Now, isn't it strange how God arranges the things? The mother put him in the ark, that little bulrush ark, and Pharaoh's daughter saw him. Then Pharaoh paid the mother to nurse him until he was weaned. So, God has a handle on everything if we only trust him. Now, Moses is can you say? He is a very pivotal figure in the Bible. He's the one who wrote the first 5 books. He's the he is a cornerstone of our Christian religion and the Jewish religion. There's a purpose, yeah. Yeah. And in this lesson, it says that in Genesis 15, verse 13 and 14, it says, "And he said unto Abram, Know that I have of a surety that thy seed shall be stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance." So, God had already told Abraham his seed was going to go through that, but they were going to come out better. And you know that God sent the children of Israel, and he kept them together, but he kept them separate. Because the Egyptians didn't like the Israelites because they thought of them as dirty people, because they were shepherds and farmers and stuff like that. They were not the elite, I guess. So in a way that kept them apart, and they kept them to themselves. But since the Pharaoh was afraid they were getting too many, and they would one day join somebody and overturn them, that's why he started putting them in slavery, and that's why he wanted to kill all the male children. Now, when now in Exodus 2, verse 11, "And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, and he went out unto his brethren, and looked up on their burdens, and he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked his way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together, and he said to him, What did the wrong? Therefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, Who made thee a judge, a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killed the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, Surely this thing is known. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. I don't know if you ever seen the movie The Ten Commandments. It's one of my favorites. They used to, around Easter, they would always play it. And I'm amazed at how much they put into a movie from just a few sentences. You know, how they expanded and everything. And the thing is that Moses thought nobody saw him. And he was how could you say it, safe in his sin, but somebody's always seen, you know. And he thought that he was going to help his fellow Israelites, but they held that against him. They said, "What are you? Who are you to judge us? Are you going to kill us too?" And later on, you're going to, later on, you're going to read that a lot of them didn't want to really follow Moses sometimes. But anyway, so he killed the Egyptian and he fled and he went to Midian. Now, if I remember right, and if I remember right, I think at this time Moses was around 40 years old when he left there. And he went to Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled their troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to rule their father, and he said, "How is it that you come so soon today?" And they said, "An Egyptian delivers us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock." And he said unto his daughters, "And where is he? Why is it that ye have left the man? Call him, that he may eat bread." And Moses was content to dwell with a man, and he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter. And she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, "I have been a stranger in a strange land." And it came to pass in the progress of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by the reason of bondage. They cried, and their cries came upon God by the reason of bondage. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham and with Isaac and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them. Now, so God remembered his promise, but like I read earlier, he had told Abraham that his seed would go to another country and serve for 400 years, and then he would judge that country, and he would bring his descendants out. So, it's we always look at things, but we only see a little bit of it, and God has it figured for us. And right now, I think through all this stuff we're going through in this nation, what's going to become of it? And like several people here say, it's we need to get back to God. to do his will. If we knew, if we know, if we trust in God, we know we have to put our trust in him. You know, that doesn't mean we sit back. We still have to work. We still have to, like I said, in this election season, we need to get out and we need to vote. We need to, we have to me, we have a clear choice. We see how it was 4 years ago, and we see how it's now. We know who's running things now, and we know how things were run 4 years ago, you know. And don't be deceived by these, you know, these quick little sayings here and there. Take some time, study study what's going on and so forth, and just think, how would God want me to vote? You know, remember the previous administration respected the ministers, he respected religion and everything else. And right now, you have this administration are arresting people who are protesting, praying in front of abortion clinics. They won't arrest anybody that burns down a church. They won't even investigate it. So tell me, do you think that's right? You think so what should we do? You think we ought to just, you know, because a lot of people say, just leave it in God's hands. Well, maybe God's telling you, I need a little something from you, you know. Sure, everything's going to come out the way he wants, but if you're not evangelizing for Christ or talking to somebody about Christ, and how are they going to know about Christ? And if an administration comes in and shuts down everything they don't like you going about and talking about Christ. You know, right now, you can say anything you want if you're in favor of the LGBTQ organizations, but you can't say anything about Christ, either in the public square or in schools, you know? Why is that? Because for too long, we've sat back and stood silent, you know? So, what do you think about that? Yeah. Yeah, you know, and you know, even if let's say we whoever we elect as the next president, we're still going to have problems, way problems. We owe a lot of money. We are in debt a lot. And, inflation's going to take a while to control and so on and so forth. Because right now you're spending a lot of money due to the inflation. And it's going to it's either going to get better slowly or it's really going to go bad. And if you don't believe that, just look at Venezuela. Venezuela one time was a very prosperous nation, but they started going the socialist route, and now only the very elite can make a living. The rest are in very bad situation.
The way I see it, and like I said, we all know, because we have the knowledge of the Holy Spirit, we need to, comply with the rules of the world and do what we have to do here, but our main priority and main focus is eternal life, because it's something it's going to happen, it's supposed to happen no matter what happens,
Yeah.
it's going to happen. So we need to make sure ourselves in order to be right with the Lord, in order to
Yeah,
that's all we have to worry about.
it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or a beggar. Everybody's going to die. But where are you going to spend eternity? And when you get up there, is the Lord going to tell you, you've been a good and faithful servant, or depart, I never knew you? Or is he going to say, I'm pleased with the gifts I gave you and what you did with them? Or did you do nothing? And that gets me to thinking sometimes, I'm getting I guess with age comes wisdom or something like that, but I'm getting older and I'm starting to think, what am I going to leave my grandkids? I don't have money to leave them. All I can leave them is a good foundation in the Lord. If I do a good job, they'll follow me. Maybe not right away, but maybe later on they'll say, he did a good job, and maybe he'll return to it. Because, when you're a teenager and so on, you always rebel. But if that foundation is there, they might be able to come back to it. So that's all I got for right now. So thank you for putting up with me. I know everybody misses Jeff.